video. And oh, here we go. I gotta start that over again. All right, hello to everybody out there. This is Kerry Sullivan with the How to Kick Ass in Sales.com video. And today I have an awesome guest on that I'm interviewing, obviously. His name is Jairek Robbins, and I'm really, really excited to have Jairek on because he's someone that I've been following for a bit, and I've literally listened to all his videos or watched all his videos, all his podcasts. I haven't read his book yet, but I'm sure it's great, and he's just got awesome killer info on here, and he's got a lot to give you guys, and he focuses a lot on the performance side of things and helping people hit their goals, but he's also had experience in sales as well. So with that, I welcome Jairek Robbins to the interview. Thanks a million for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, right on. So the first thing I just want to ask you is the rapid fire questions, just so people get to know you a little bit better here. So what's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's your favorite book?
Oof. Alchemist.
Favorite food?
Broccoli.
Favorite, that's the first time anyone's ever said that. Favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Favorite place you ever visited?
Oof. I love traveling. Probably Fiji.
Okay. And who is your favorite superhero?
Superhero? Michelangelo? He's a Ninja Turtle. He qualifies.
Yeah, that works. That works. Right on. Who's your favorite team? Sports team?
Team?
Yeah.
I'm still a Chicago Bulls fan.
Right on. From the Jordan days?
Yeah.
Right on. Right on.
I was little when I used to watch him late at night on TV, so
cool.
Still a fan.
Cool. And then last but not least, what's your favorite season of the year?
We love warm weather, but we live in Florida, so winter here because it's like that perfect 70 to 80 degrees, but generally summer because it's warm. So
right on. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So thanks a million again for coming on here. And one of the things is I know you've had some sales experience. You've worked in sales and everything like that. So just so people know, they're on here. They're mostly salespeople. So what is your background with sales? You know, obviously every business is around that. You have your own business. And that's a big part of it. So just tell people a little bit about your experience with sales.
Sure. I grew up in sales. My grandma is life insurance and annuity sales in California, Southern California specifically. And she's been a top producer for over probably 40-something years now in life insurance and annuities through various companies. And she's won everything between the cover of Newsweek magazine for her life insurance story to Life Insurance Story of the Year. She's been on the $1 Million Roundtable multiple times. She has the key to the city of Los Angeles, Businesswoman of the Year of Los Angeles. So she's kind of a big deal when it comes to sales. She's in her late 70s and still cold calls 3 days a week. So
wow.
Anyone who's in sales who doesn't cold call at least 3 days a week, my grandma's kicking your ass, basically. And even in that later 70s stage of life, she still does over $250,000 in income every year, personally. So she's a rock star. And I grew up from a very, very, very little age hanging out at her house all the time because parents were working and I was at grandma's. And so she would dress me up in a suit and she taught me her sales presentation even when I was like 5, 6 years old. And she'd take me with her to presentations and let me give the presentation. So I've been in sales since at least 5 or 7 years old, somewhere in that range, hanging out at grandma's. And I've always worked with her in her business. So it's like she would pay me $20 for licking and stamping and writing out the envelopes to send out the sales letters. We would go do the fingerprinting on the weekends to draw in new leads for the business to get people to call back to go sell life insurance to. So I grew up literally around that. And then with my mom, when I was very little, she used to work on the weekends, a side job at the swap meet in Los Angeles, where she would be selling graders. So like I don't know if people know what graders are, but the thing like you twist and it like grades your cheese for you by twisting it. It's like magic. But I used to sit behind the table at the swap meet and listen to her sell stuff all day long. And obviously everyone at the swap meet has a sales presentation and they're selling shit from their booth. So I literally grew up there. And then with my dad, when I was young, he was out teaching sales trainings to people all over. And specifically targeting sales audiences and teaching them how to better their sales through a specific science he was using. So I literally grew up in a family where just every angle of the people I was closest to were always selling something in some way, shape, or form. My own personal experience, I can't say it was my first, second, or third job. It was my fourth job I got into. My first job, I was a security officer at Blockbuster Video because I was tall and big at 15 years old. I could see over shelves, but I'm happy to say that theft went down by 47% within the first week of me starting. So obviously I did have a positive effect on theft at Blockbuster in Encinitas. Fast forward, my heart was always helping people, so I went into the nonprofit and I worked there for my first job. From there, I swapped over to coaching, so I was just doing specific performance coaching. And then eventually I remember looking across the hallway at the office and being like, what do they do on that side? And I got into sales, and I've done phone sales, so outbound calling to people to sell products based on leads that have come in offline. I've done door-to-door sales, like office-to-office sales, where we're heading out, door knocking, convincing the person in charge that we have some awesome value to offer them, setting up a meeting, coming back, getting their entire office in a room, and presenting to their entire office for 45 minutes with the intent to sell a $1,000 to $2,500 4-day program at the end of that conversation. It's a hard sell, only based on you got 45 minutes to convince someone that 4 days and $2,500 of their time and money is worth what you just told them in 45 minutes. It's a good one. I think Cutco or Kirby vacuums might be a little harder to sell than that, but in the same realm of you're meeting people for the first time and walking them through that start to finish presentation. And to be honest, when I started, I was just horrific. And by the end, when I finished my last cycle, I was the #1 person on the team in that cycle, which isn't, I'm not gloating or it was a horrific cycle for the team, but I happened to finish the top out of the worst there. So it was a pleasant, unpleasant moment, and I transitioned out of that position over to my own company. So I decided to break off, start my own company about 6 years ago. And after 2 years of on-the-field training, door-to-door, face-to-face, selling, plus 6 months of phone sales before and after that out in the field, the day I opened my own company, it gave me an incredible head start compared to most people opening a coaching or training type business. And I had already had 6 years previous experience in coaching too. So I had a product that was legit. I knew how to deliver it, had tons of confidence, hundreds of clients that I already worked with and got great testimonials and endorsements from. I had a skill set of knowing how to market myself and knowing how to convert those leads into actual clients. And so when I opened the doors, first it was selling 1 or 2 clients a month, and I was really stoked about that because it was great money comparably to what I was making before. And then from the business end point, within 8 months, I'd ramped up to 52 one-on-one coaching clients, which broke the 6-figure mark in income for our company. So it was just me. And imagine me, a desk, a cell phone, and a laptop. And within 8 months, I had over $100,000 in personal income. That's awesome. And I was 24. So it's a good moment of life to have an extra $100,000 sitting around.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's a good thing for a lot of people to realize out there that are in business and they start a business and they think, oh, I'm just going to go out there and start it. And, everything's going to be easy, come to me. And they don't put much thought into the sales part of it. They really don't.
And there's 2 things. One, they don't put much thought into the product side of it.
Yeah.
So most people are like, hey, guess what? In my industry, they pop up and they're like, I'm a coach. Yeah. I was like, really? What's your background? Where'd you work? What's your experience? What's your degree? And they're like, I went to a seminar. And I was like, wow, that's exciting, pal. Like, high five. They're like, how did you get started? And I was like, well, I grew up in the industry my entire life. I spent 4 years getting a BA in psychology, and I spent 6 years coaching for another company before I decided to open the doors. Yeah. I had a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we forget to tell people that, and they don't think that's what it is. So they jump into a field, honestly, without the background, credibility, or experience, hoping to get some gigantic result. Or, the other piece is they have a great product, and they honestly have zero reference when it comes to sales.
Yeah.
So this was the other factor of why I was horrible when I first went into door-to-door, business-to-business sales. I had zero experience in sales prior to that moment. I had like 6 months of phone sales, which is radically different than knocking on someone's office door and convincing them that they need to give you an hour of their entire company's time.
Yeah.
And so I would knock on an office door and get turned around faster than I walked in and not know what happened. just because I had no experience.
Yeah.
But after 4 or 5 months on the job, it got to a point where you start to realize, like, oh, there's a language to this. There's a conversation to this. There's a certain way you have to introduce yourself. There's certain ways that this goes that you know how to speak their language. For people in real estate, like if you walk in the Keller Williams office and ask for the boss or the owner, you're asking for the wrong person. Like you have to ask for a team leader or a market leader. And if you don't know those words, they're going to kick you out faster than you came in because you don't know who you're talking to. And obviously you have zero experience.
Yeah.
And it's like when you start understanding the thought process behind it, when you go to a car dealership and you're trying to sell them something, like you don't ask for the boss. That's a weird question. Ask for the general manager. Ask for the owner who owns this dealership and multiple dealerships, and do a top-down conversation.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were going door to door doing that. That was one of my first jobs too, going door to door selling businesses on merchant processing. So yeah.
It's an adventure.
Oh, yeah, it's great though. It's so good. I think if anybody wants to be in business, I think it's a great way to start out, developing those skills. Because
most of my friends who are absolutely fantastic at sales, a lot of them somehow got coaxed into a summer job of door-to-door, like encyclopedia sales or something like that, where back in the day, like you had to go sell people the Encyclopedia Britannica at their front door, and it's $1,000 book set off of a door knock. Like, that's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough one. I don't think people could even do that anymore. They're like, there's Wikipedia. Why would I want to do that, right?
I'll Google it. Go away.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think the other important thing too that you noted there too is a lot of people look at someone, they're like, oh, they're an overnight success. But like so many of these guys that are overnight successes are like, oh, it took me like 12 years to be an overnight success. It's like that ramp up of all those skills and experience and failures, and then they were able to put it all together and have pretty quick success a lot of the time.
Yep.
So really cool story there. So what have you found then are some of the main keys to being good in sales? Because you've had huge experience across the board there with all different things.
Sure. I've had major victories in sales, and I've had horrific failures in sales, like most people.
Yeah.
And the biggest part that helps someone stand out, it all comes down to mindset. And beyond just physical mindset of like the thoughts you think, it's the state you're in. And if you look at it, if we were to give a simple overview model, I learned this when it comes to influence. It's how influential are you? Meaning how well can you transfer the mindset and belief and certainty you have within you to that other person? And the very first place to start when we think of this is how resourceful can you get as a salesperson yourself? Meaning if I came to you and said, hey, here's a product that costs $500,000, go sell it to somebody. Would your brain immediately go like, shit, damn, I don't know who'd buy something like this. Like, damn, I don't know. And I'm like, the commission's $100,000, bro. Find someone to sell it to. Or would you be like, $100,000? Dunzo! Like, walk out of the room and be like, I'm going to go sell 10 of these things. Like, who's the first person buying? What happens in your psychology the moment I offer you the ability to sell something? And if you haven't mastered that yet, like, you're the furthest from ready to sell. So at the very first, you got to master your own psychology to the point that no matter what it is you're selling, you can sell it. Meaning you can take your belief system, your emotional system, and you can wrap it around anything to get yourself to move it. And the most common obstacle you hear salespeople put in front of them is, well, I could really sell it if I believe in it, but if I don't believe in it, I can't really sell it. I'll tell you this, real salespeople, they can sell anything. Why? Because they sell. I mean, they could sell ice to Eskimos. They could sell dirt to a guy who owns a dump truck. Like, they know how to sell anything to anyone. It doesn't come down to, if I believe in it enough, I can do it. That's a sissy response. Like, if you're a salesperson, you can sell anything to anyone anytime. Why? Because you know how to take your psychology, your beliefs, your emotions, and wrap it around anything in this world and create enough positive emotions, positive beliefs, and powerful thoughts that you can move that thing. And you can transfer those thoughts and emotions to anyone around you and get them to believe it and feel it too. That it's the sign of a true influencer. It's a sign of a true salesperson. So that thought is, A, have you mastered the ability that you could look around at anything, be like an eraser, a mouse, a desk, a chair, a computer, a mic. Like, can you look around everything in your initial proximity and vicinity right now and with certainty say, I could sell that to somebody? If you can't, you got to start here. You got to work on yourself. And you got to get to the point, if you're in sales, where you're like, dude, name it. Like water slide, I'll sell it to somebody. Blow up, clown, I'll sell it to somebody. Treadmill desk, done. Car, done. Like you got to be able to list off anything that comes to mind and just immediately have certainty of you can wrap your thoughts, emotion, and so it's specific here. Thoughts, what you think about it. When someone says, could you sell this? Immediately, it's a mouse. What comes up in your mind? What thoughts fill your mind? You need all of those thoughts to be able to say, yes, with certainty, I can sell that. So along with thoughts, initial just gut reactions, you need to work on your beliefs. Your belief is, what would I have to believe about this little guy to believe that I could sell it? What beliefs would you need? I need a belief that it's legit. I need a belief that it's sturdy. I need a belief that it's worth something. I need a belief that I can sell it. I need a belief that I'm actually excited about some part of it. I need a belief that it's unique. I need a belief that people need it. I need a belief that people need it now. I need, you need foundational belief system set up that causes you to believe this is something worth selling. And you need to, so we'll start there. Now the next piece, emotionally. How would I have to feel about this little, mouse in order to sell it? What emotions would I need to feel in my body so intensely that I could move this mouse to anybody? Even if I went to a factory that sells these mouses, I could sell it back to them because there's so much emotion in me. I could transfer that emotion to this person and get them to feel how important this mouse is and why they need it now. So you could transfer the thoughts, the belief, and the emotion. Now from there, now we got to go down to, if you can do that, the very first level is, can you change yourself basically from an unresourceful state, meaning you see this and go, nope, that's worthless, it's a piece of junk, I cannot sell it. So that's unresourceful. Can you go from there to, in an instant, be in radical and total resourceful state? Meaning in an instant, you can change your thoughts, your belief, and your emotions to relook at the exact same thing and go from, I don't see what it's worth, it's not worth much to me, to 100%, I can move this, I have total certainty, here's why, here's what I believe about it, here's how I feel about it. In an instant, I can change myself to have passion behind moving that and why it's important and why someone needs it now and you're going to be the person to take it. Can you do that in an instant? Now, here comes your levels, how effective you are in sales. If you can do that for yourself and one other person, you've kind of hit level 1. Meaning you're a good one-on-one salesperson. Mm-hmm. You can take one person and with total certainty take them from not believing you, not interested in what you have, not even curious, to passionately interested, passionately curious, ready to buy now, and willing to sign and give you their credit card. It does, regardless of the product. Can you create that kind of influence in someone that fast? That's first level. Second level, can you do it with yourself and them, and can you get it to actually stick? Meaning there's a lot of people who can do that. Like when I'm in the room, people buy. But buyer's remorse happens is when you leave the room and they no longer feel as certain as they did when you were there. So if you're in the room and they're certain, they believe you, this is it, this is the right thing. You walk out of the room and they're like, I don't think I need it anymore, and they want to sell it back to you. You weren't influential. You're influential in the moment, but it doesn't stick. So that next level is, does it stick? Has it been done hard enough, passionate enough, long enough, ingrained enough to the point that it sticks in their nervous system? Meaning when you walk out of the room, they're like, yeah, this is still the greatest thing ever. Still is. And third, have you done it deep enough to the point that this next level, they start telling other people how amazing it is? Or have you just influenced them? So first, can you do yourself? Second, can you do one-on-one in the moment? Third, can you do one-on-one, but when you leave, it sticks? Fourth, can you do one-on-one to the point that they start reselling it because of how passionate they became about it because of your presentation and emotional intensity you had with them? That level. Now, here's the next level. Can you do those same steps with a group of people all at the same time? So you master one-on-one. You can go in a room with any one person. You sit down, you talk to them, you influence them, you move them, you get them so wound up, you get them believing what they need to believe, feeling what they need to feel, thinking what they need to think, to the point that they believe this is the greatest thing on earth, and they will not leave without at least one of them in their pocket. Got it. You walk out of the room, they still believe it. And they start telling their friends how all their friends need one too, and you start getting referral calls up the wazoo of people like, I need one of those, I need one. You're like, damn, I influenced the hell out of that guy. Now, can you do it with a group of people? Can you take 10 people in a room and have that same exact effect? You walk in, they don't like you, they're not interested in what you have, they're irritated that you're taking their time, and they're forced to listen to you. Within that period of time called your presentation, can you, A, change their state? Get them from not liking you to loving you. Get them from not interested to passionately interested. Get them from, not even curious to drooling over what you have to offer. Get them, hell no, I'm not buying a thing from this guy, to like, give me 3. And I'd pay double if you let me. That was so good. Can you get the whole room to feel that way? Second, when you leave the room, even if you convince everyone in the room to buy, when you leave the room, does half the room refund? That's a big problem. Do you have the ability to get it to stick for everybody? Fourth, does the whole room turn around and start calling people and telling their friends, like, you got to do this? Here's the last one. Can you do it at a level where you create a culture where you not even having to be there, all 4 of those levels happen? Someone goes to your website, someone buys this mouse off your website, they take it home and go, this is legit, and they start selling each other on it when you didn't even have to show up and do a presentation. Have you designed a culture around what it is that you offer so much so that it speaks for itself?
Yeah.
So if we use that as a hierarchy to figure out how effective you really are in sales for anyone tuning in, how effective are you?
Yeah. That's creating a movement like you're talking about there at the end. Okay, so how is it that you then get to that level then? That level 4, that level 5 that you're talking about? What are the keys to doing that?
First, you got to start with yourself. That's where we started. And as salespeople, do you have the ability, if we're just using 3 things as the criteria, do you have the ability to shift your thoughts and get your thoughts, everything going through your head, to be the right kind of thoughts to the point that you believe so passionately about what you have that you have to? Like, are you able to convince yourself? Second, beliefs, your core beliefs. And a belief is anything you have certainty in. So if you drew, a tabletop and you said that's a belief, how does the tabletop stand up? How do you hold or support up a tabletop? With support, so little legs of a table. So every circumstance that's happened in your life is a piece of support. So if I said, are you a good salesman? You would have a belief that says, I'm a great salesman. Perfect, that's the belief, tabletop. How do you know you're a good salesman? We would take let's see. I don't have anything. Here, pens. We would take these under your tabletop and say, well, leg number 1 is, I've sold something to someone at some point in my life. Perfect, you got a leg. Leg number 2 is, I was the top of my team at one point in history. You got 2 legs. Leg number 3 is, I hit my number yesterday. You got 3 legs. Great, you got a stool. And it's like, okay, leg number 4 is, whatever. And you keep stacking these legs. Now what happens is a lot of new salespeople, when they first get in, they have a belief that says, I'm not so sure if I'm that good. And then they have a lot of references of people like hanging up on them, people yelling at them, people getting pissed at them, people getting frustrated with them. And so they have some limiting beliefs in their own head that basically tell them, I am not good at sales. And they have like this amount of proof. If I grabbed a bunch of pens, they have like this amount of proof that they're not good at sales.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be in sales still.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, dude, you really believe you're not good at sales. You've got like tons of little beliefs of how not good at sales you are. You need to get rid of all of those. And you need to do some emotional rewiring. So in coaching, the first thing we would do is we would help them rewire those limiting beliefs and just get them out of there. And there's plenty of ways to do that, but first scratch out all the limiting beliefs, get rid of them. So there's nothing holding you back. Second, we need to create a foundation of some really, really, really empowering, supportive beliefs. In your nervous system, we need to get you to feel these new empowering beliefs. And if we were to start with the basics, like the absolute basics, a simple belief to have in sales is like, hey, I have the ability to influence people now. If you start there, how many people listening, if I said, do you have the ability to influence someone right now in your life? I'm sure there's some people that are like, absolutely. There's other people that are like, I don't know. If you're not certain on that, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to sell someone something. That's the core of sales, influence. So, number one, get certain on that belief. How do you get certain? You need to rehearse it. It starts in your mind. Affirmations, incantations, build references. Look for times in your life when you did positively influence someone. And start stacking your references to support that belief, that tabletop, so it becomes very strong. And every time you do influence someone, anchor it in. Anchoring is another technique, which means you create a very specific movement or phrase you say, and you anchor it in at the peak of an emotion. So if you imagine like there's a mountaintop, if it's climbing, when it's like 2 millimeters almost to the top, you do a very specific emotion and lock in that feeling so that it anchors into a very specific part of you. So if you just went like this, the fist, you were like, yes, yes. Every time you had a peak experience, pretty soon all you have to do is go, yes, and all those peak experiences you had activate in your head immediately in that moment. So you could set off this anchor at a moment's notice. The best time to set it off probably would be right before your presentation.
Yeah.
Because you want to walk in and be like, yes, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm my best self right now. The third part would be emotions. So how do you control your emotional state? This is one of the biggest factors in sales. If you watch salespeople closely, during their presentation, when they're giving value, when they're sharing about their product, it's like emotional high. The moment they start talking about sales, it's like, ugh. You're like, whoa, dude. Like, you have no control over your emotional state. You had it, and then shit got hard or uncomfortable, and it's like, you lost it. You got to practice. That comes down to practice. That comes down to, like, every day, waking up, doing your presentation before work, doing your presentation after work. Practice, to the point that it's so second nature, like you don't even have to think about it, so that when you get to the close, it's just like saying, like, hey, good morning, how you feeling? It's so natural that there's no shift in your personal emotional state. If anything, your emotion goes higher on purpose because you've trained yourself to get more excited about the close. And so that thought process on the emotion. So how do you get yourself to elevate? First, master those 3 areas for yourself. Like, do you believe it? Do you have supportive thoughts? Do you have the strongest emotional state possible to successfully move your product and service? Now from there, now you got, how do you practice on one person? I mean, practice. If you're a young guy, go get some dates. How do you know if you're good at sales? We'll find out real quick. Let you loose in the bar, see what happens. Yeah. You either go home alone or you go home with a date and find out how your sales capacity real quick. You know, and most guys respect that pretty quickly. Most women don't. They'll probably punch us for that comment, but guys will. And fair game, if you challenge a woman to that, she'll whoop your ass 10 times over because they have a little bit more leverage in that situation of how to win the sales game.
They do indeed. So actually, that kind of gets into one of the next questions I wanted to ask you because, your daily habits, your daily rituals are really important and doing things that way. So this is, right here, this is my daily must list right here. These are the things I got to do every single day. Yep. And so, for sales professionals out there, and we focus in on helping people break their sales records, right? Nice. So what do you think are like the daily must or the daily habits that people must get together to really take things to the next level in their sales?
One of the biggest ones, really simple, is having a daily morning and evening ritual. Let me see if I have an outline I put together for people. Let's see if I can find it. And the way to think about it is how do you enter and exit your day? Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, like, you need ability to build yourself up emotionally. You need to build an ability to shut yourself down at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And most people have the wind up one nowadays because so many people talk about it, so they get themselves all fired up for the day. Actually, to be honest, the majority of the planet does not have a morning ritual. They like wake up, roll out of bed, and they're like, oh shit, I'm late, and go running for work and wonder why they don't perform at their best. The top people who are normally really, really talented, they have a morning ritual of some sort. But most of them, if they're really talented, don't necessarily have an evening ritual of how to wind themselves out of the day. So to start with the morning, my morning ritual takes about 20 minutes total. I always start off with meditation of 20 minutes or 15 minutes. I use the app Headspace. just because if you're not good at meditation, it tells you how to do it.
Yeah.
So it teaches you how to meditate.
Beat type stuff.
Yeah, you just throw it in. It's
Yeah.
not binaural beat. The guy talks you through it.
Okay, cool.
So he's literally like, okay, close your eyes, take a deep breath, go ahead and imagine this, think about that. If you find your mind wandering, now would be a good time to bring it back. Like,
yeah,
you're basic. He teaches you how to master it at a basic level, and then he upgrades you each level. But that's a simple way. So first, meditate for 20 minutes. My thought is, at night, you have dreams, you have thoughts, you go to bed thinking about stuff. There's all kinds of stuff floating around in your head. That's unfair to start with all kinds of randomness to start your day. Like, you need to clear the space, clean up the room. I learned from a gentleman we interviewed, Mark Devine, who's an ex-Navy SEAL.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm reading one of his books right now, actually.
Awesome. When I was talking to Mark, he said you need to create your own mental training space in your mind, and the first thing you want to do in the morning is clean it. Like, it should be empty, pristine, clean, like floors mopped, windows beautiful. Like, it should be the most pristine place you start your day, completely empty of any negativity or any nonsense. Now, if you start in that space to think of this like amazing dojo in your mind, that's where meditation comes in, because that allows you to clean your space. I mean, even in your mind, if you're not good at meditation, imagine yourself going into like your mental training center and like design it. Like, is it a cool dojo? Does it have like a badass view? Are you in the mountains? Are you on like the ocean? Like, where is it? Design this like perfect little room in your head. See all the cool equipment you need, like weights and bars and whatever else you want in there. But then imagine going in your mind and your meditation is simply cleaning out the dojo. Like, take a mop, take a broom, just scrub that place in your mind to start the day for 20 minutes. Just see yourself clean the tar out of the place and be totally silent. Practice your breathing. Ideally from a breath expert friend of mine. Actually, he's friends with Mark as well. But Dan Brule says you want to ideally get yourself down to 6 full breaths a minute. And all that means is 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And so you want to practice like 1. So the whole time you're mentally cleaning that dojo, practice scrubbing, or as you're scrubbing the dojo in your mind, practice 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. You're going to stimulate your lymph system. You're going to generate some energy in your body, and you're going to prepare yourself for the day. It's a great breath to train. So total side note, Mark also has something called box breathing.
Yeah.
Amazing tool, especially when you're put under intense stress, to get out of your fight or flight method and get right back into your centeredness. And so that'd be a great tool if you ever find yourself in your out in sales, you get worked up, you get pissed off, fight or flight, you're not thinking straight anymore. Box breathing, 5 minutes. And all box breathing is like 4 seconds in, hold it for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold it out for 4 seconds, 4 seconds in, same pattern. You want to keep yourself out of fight or flight, especially in sales, because a lot of people go there way too fast.
Yeah.
So coming back to morning ritual, 20 minutes meditation, then I jump on a treadmill desk. So right behind me, you can't really see it. There's something that looks like I'm tiny and this is a giant desk.
Oh, yeah.
A treadmill on the bottom of it and a desk at the top. So there's actually a treadmill at the bottom of it and a desk at the top. So I jump on there first thing in the morning and start walking. And as I'm walking on that treadmill desk, the very first thing I do is 5 minutes of just moving and breathing. So as I'm walking, I do, I just get my breath to match my step. So it's like, and that breathing is a little bit deeper, a little bit more intense, but that rhythmic breathing stimulates your lymph system, which cleanses your blood, and it helps get all the toxins out of your blood. It also oxygenates, if you get it down to your lower lungs, it oxygenates all your red blood cells in your blood, which is great for your health and digestive system as well. So start with 5 minutes of just breathing and moving. While I'm doing that, in my mind, I start doing the 5 minutes of gratitude. So in my mind, I'm thinking of every single thing I'm grateful for. My health, my sight, my ability to breathe and move and listen and look and travel and experience life, the ability to make a difference, the ability to have fun, the ability to anything. You just flood your mind for 5 minutes. And the reason you start with gratitude is it fills you up. I mean, if you had any anxiety, any tension, any fear, any frustration, it disappears the moment you're grateful. So flood with gratitude. Then I go on kind of a journey, and I start with my 20-year goals and vision for my life, and for 1 minute I rehearse the major 20-year goals. So I'm so grateful 20 years from now, my health and fitness is stronger than ever before. At 50 years old, I'm stronger and healthy than the majority of 20-year-olds in the world. I'm so grateful that emotionally, you know, I'm feel abundant and proud and passionate about my life, and every moment is the greatest day on earth. I'm so grateful that my wife and I are passionately in love, and every day our love and passion grows for each other. So I start listing the major components of that 20-year vision, and I do that for about a minute. Then I do the same thing for a minute for my 10-year vision, same thing for a minute for my 5-year vision, 1-year vision, 6-month goals, quarterly goals, 1-month goals. Then I mentally rehearse the day for 5 minutes. Now, mental rehearsal is different than visualization. Visualization, you just see like the perfect thing happening. Mental rehearsal is what Muhammad Ali used to use for boxing matches, and it's what pro athletes use. We've used it with Olympic athletes in training with them. To where mental rehearsal is, if you just visualized your perfect boxing match, you would land all your punches and you'd never get hit once. That's like the perfect visualization. You nailed it. Now, that's unrealistic, because if you get in a boxing match and you've only imagined yourself landing your punches and never getting hit, what happens when you get hit the first time? Your nervous system freaks out because you've never been hit before and you didn't expect it. Mental rehearsal is, yes, you start with the perfect visualization of you hitting all your punches. Mental rehearsal also is you get hit hard. You see yourself getting stunned. You see yourself getting set back. And on purpose, you allow yourself to stand back up, take a breath, look forward, move through it successfully. Even though you were stunned, even though you were set back, even though you got a no, even though someone told you, you know, you're dumb, get out of here. No matter what happened, you see yourself get stunned, shake it off, stand up, take a breath, move forward. And you practice that. You practice objections coming at you and knocking you down. See it, step up, answer it, move forward. That way, when someone throws something at you in the day, you've practiced it 12, 10, 15 times in the morning for, 3 years. It's not a stunner. It hits you, you're like, okay, and keep going. It doesn't even faze you because you practice every day. Next, after you've mentally rehearsed your day for 5 minutes, you go into incantations. Incantations is really simple. It's an affirmation or a powerful phrase repeated aloud with an emotional movement attached to it. So there was a research study done where, and I don't support this, but I use the evidence because it was interesting. There's a research study done where they took a monkey and they taped down all of his fingers like this, and they took a little robotic hand and they had the robotic hand grab his finger and basically do this to it. And they had him do it 10,000 times. Just the machine just kept going like this 10,000 times. And then they took the machine away, and guess what happened when they untaped his hand?
Same thing.
Just kept going.
Yeah.
They trained it. It got wired up in his nervous system and his muscular skeletal system that this is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Here's what they figured out. They taped back down the fingers. They took a different monkey, taped down the fingers. They could put the same machine on. They said, I wonder if we can get it to stick with less than 10,000 hits. So what they did is first they just kept trying it and it wouldn't stick. So this time they cut open his brain, his head. They took a little probe. This is why I don't like it. They took a little probe. They put it on the pleasure center of his brain, and every time they bent his finger, they sent a little electric shock to the pleasure center of the monkey's brain. So it was like, ha ha ha. Like it felt really exciting because all of a sudden endorphins kick in like stimulants. It's the equivalent of eating a chocolate bar or doing drugs or something. It's like, ha ha, like it feels amazing.
Yeah.
In that moment. So all of a sudden they did it a couple times, and they did it 100 times with a little electric shock, and they stopped, and the monkey was hooked. It was like this. Then they figured out, hey, what if we up the intensity? They figured out they could do it 10 times at full intensity, and it just stuck like this for life, and the monkey was like wired to do it. So here's what's interesting. The whole point of an incantation isn't to just be like, I'm going to do great today at sales. Yeah. It's to figure out a phrase that works for you, like, I'm a man of influence. Everyone I cross paths with is influenced by my presence in a positive way. That could be a cool phrase. A little long, but could be cool. Now with that, you want to add emotion to it, and you want to add movement to it, and you want to add intensity to it. Give you a clue. The more emotion you add to it and the more intensity you add to it, the faster it sticks. So, I mean, how fast can it stick? One time. How do I know that? Think of a song that triggers off a significant emotional past event. I bet this first time you ever had a kiss, play that song, you're like, oh, that was a good moment. Instantaneously triggers it off. Why? That was a big moment in history. You know, think of the first time something horrible happened. Imagine you're listening to a song and you get in a car accident. Song comes on the radio when you're driving. I guarantee your heart rate speeds up and you get fucking nervous and start sweating and shit because your brain's like, oh shit, we're gonna get hit. It got linked up one time because the event was significant enough and emotional enough. So if you want that positive phrase or feeling to stick, you need to add absolutely over-the-top intensity and energy to it, and it'll stick very quickly. Final piece. Now, this isn't a religious piece. This is just my own personal belief. But I end with a couple-minute prayer. And my belief is I can do my part in life. I can give all my focus, all my energy, all my effort. And no matter how hard I give and how much I do, there's always about 10% left that's not up to me. And that little percent comes down to faith. And you just got to, and regardless of what you believe in that element of life, whoever's watching or tuning in, that source energy, universal energy, God energy, whatever that is to you, that's the piece you want to connect with at the end, allowing that to guide you throughout your day. Whether you call it your gut instinct or God, doesn't matter, but you want to connect to that final piece to know that you're guided and allow faith to really direct you in your actions throughout the day.
Right on, right on. Hey, I want to respect your time. You spent a lot of time with me here. Do you have time for one more question, or you?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So the one other thing I want to ask you here is, people don't really talk about this, but your relationships, specifically your love relationships, because that can definitely influence your sales. And there's been some really unbelievable studies on that too. I preach to the choir with you, but I'd like you just to talk a little bit about that and how you can use that to your advantage, and why that's important to work on that as well.
Sure. Here's what I've learned in life. If I were to give just a foundational piece, when we first start out, and this is more on the personal side of who we are, it's not much to do with sales, but it does impact it overall. When we first start out in life, if you imagine there's kind of a level or a stage one with like 3 levels in that stage. Stage 1, level 1, is that moment we go out in the life and we think we know what we're doing, but if we're really, really honest, we have no clue what we're doing. Like normally you're about 18 years old, 16 years old, maybe 25, nowadays maybe 40, leaving home, no judgment, just saying it happens. So if you're somewhere in that range, you're leaving home for the first time to go out into life, and as you head out, you're like, oh, I got this. I totally know what I'm doing. If we were to rewind and go to like Africa, that's like being like, hey, I left the house, didn't take a spear, have no clue how to hunt, but I have total confidence. I'm going to be fine. And like on day 3, you're sitting out there like, dang, I'm hungry, man. Like it'd be nice to have some food, but I don't know how to like hunt one of those things. Just honest. You don't know how to hunt. You don't know how to provide for yourself. You don't know how to protect yourself. You haven't done it before. And got to give yourself a little bit of space to mess up, and knowing you're going to mess it up at that point. So level 1, stage 1 is you go out into the world, you really don't know what works. How you advance to level 1, stage 2 is you have to figure out what works. So this is normally a point when someone hits pain. And when they hit pain, they get frustrated. They're like, wow, I can't make enough money to get the life I want. I can't make enough money to have the car I want, the house I want, the trip I want, to give to my family the way I want to give to. It's just not showing up. I don't know what to do. At that moment, someone picks up some books. Someone starts listening to podcasts or interviews like this. They start listening to tapes. They start going to seminars. They start training themselves till they figure out, I don't know what to do. Someone else does, and I need to know the answers. They start looking. Now what happens is as they start looking, as they start searching for answers, they normally cross paths with someone that makes sense to them. And they say something, and they're like, that guy makes sense, or that lady, that makes sense what they just said. And all of a sudden they become a raving fan of everything that person does. And how you know this happens is normally all their friends hate hearing about this magical person they found. Because inevitably what happens is like, this person knows everything. They're amazing. You gotta see them. And all their friends are like, really, dude? Like, no one knows everything. Like, I don't care how cool they are. I know they don't know everything about life. And you're like, no, don't hate on them. Trust me, you just gotta go, man. And they drag all their friends and convince everyone they know that this is the greatest secret sauce since, sliced bread. It's the coolest thing ever. Eventually they figure out, hey, as much as I believe in this person and their thoughts or philosophies, here's what's real. That's what works for them. It works for me, but it doesn't really work 100% authentically as me. So I need to update what I've learned, and I need to figure out my own authentic voice within these tools and strategies and concepts. So at that moment, you start to adjust what you've learned to really fit the mold of who you are as a human being. And everyone's different. So you find your mold, your version of it, and now you've graduated to step 2, level 1, step 2, stage 2. You're like, hey, or stage 1, level 2. You've made it, and you're like, hey, I know what works, and I know what works for me. And when I do it, life is wonderful. When I don't do it, shit falls apart real fast. And this is a stage of life where someone figures out, when I eat this, when I work out like this, when I use this sales technique, when I sell to these types of people, when I do this kind of work, when I go these kind of places, life is good. If I mess up any of those or put them in the wrong order, everything falls apart in my life. So that thought process. Now, at this point, life becomes incredibly effortful, meaning it takes a lot of effort to get it right. You really have to work at it. Pretty soon, you do it so much that you become unconsciously confident, meaning you don't have to think about it, you just do it. And at that point, you kind of graduate over to stage 3 of this first level, where it's effortless. You own your life. And in what categories? You own your life health-wise, emotionally, physically, financially, business-wise, spiritually, all the majors, family, you own it. Like, you don't have to think about it. You own it. You are abundant. You know what to do. You do it consistently. You own yourself as a man or woman in this world. At that point, you're ready to transition and share your life with someone. So this is, when we talk about relationships, most people don't take the time to master themselves first, and it's the biggest problem and challenge they're going to face in a relationship. Because if you're not completely abundantly full as a person, if there's a void inside of who you are, you're going to go to a relationship to try to get something to fill the void. Big problem. Here's the problem with that. You're going to start taking that out of the relationship. As soon as the relationship completely runs out of whatever you wanted, it'll be empty and have no more to give you. You'll have to go look somewhere else to get it. Big problem. Versus, if you take time to fill up that entire element of who you are and master yourself, the only reason you want to go to a relationship at this point is you're overflowing with what you value and what you experience in life. You have so much of it coming out of you. All you want to do is find someone to share this amazingness with. You're like, I've got so much of this awesome factor in my life right now. I wish someone was around for me to share some of this with, because it's so cool and it's kind of boring by myself. And you're like, dude, whether that's love, whether that's humor, whether that's travel, whether that's adventure, whether that's a good life, whatever that is for you, God, whatever that piece is that you have so much of in your life, you're like, literally, I just want to find someone who values this because I want to share it with them. I want to give some of it to them so that they can feel what I feel. Ideally, you also find someone who has also mastered themselves as a man or woman in the world so that you're equally matched. Because it's very unfair if you handled you and they didn't handle themselves and they're coming to take and you're going to give. It'll work for a while, but eventually it'll get old. Because you'd be like, oh, you don't really give back much. And you're not judging, you're not measuring, it's just like, it's reality. Like, they just show up and take all the time. It's weird. But you find someone who gives as much as you do and they just want to share what they have and you love what they receive and they love to receive, golden. Now, talking about relationships, here's what happens. Even if you've both mastered yourselves as human beings, you put two people together. Two different schedules, two different lifestyles, two different approaches, two different belief systems. It's the equivalent as if you took a couple, average couple, you handed one a rule book for Monopoly and one a rule book for the game Clue. And you said, go, play the game of life, and you both win. Go. That's how relationships start. Because one person says, no, the way to win the game is I have to go around the board, roll the dice, go around the board, and buy as many little properties as possible. The other person goes, that's not how you win the game of relationships. You win the game by guessing who's done it where, in what room, with what weapon. And they're like, you're wrong. That's not how you play this game. You know, I have the rules right here. So the biggest factor people are missing when they get in a relationship with someone, and this goes back to sales, you think everyone has the same rules you do. So you try to play the game saying, this is how the game is played, and the other person's like, no, it's not. This is how the way the game's played. And you try to argue it out, The truth is, no one sat down at the first day of the relationship and said, okay, you guys, both y'all write out all your rules, all your values, all your beliefs, all your goals, everything you want, and let's match it up, and let's make one set for you guys as a couple. Never been. I haven't gone to an event yet that has done it. We're working on it to be able to give to friends of ours as a gift when they first get together. But it's something rarely done with the couples. So think of this, going back to sales real quick. Imagine trying to sell someone something and you don't even know the rules they have about buying. How are you supposed to help them win the game if you don't know what their rules are? It'd be a really smart thing to understand people's rules as fast as humanly possible. Because if I know your rules and how you know when you win the game of life, I can help you get there that fast. But if I don't know what your rules are, I have no clue how to help you close that chasm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So going back to that whole rules section in relationships, once they get in alignment, normally what happens, let's say one person wakes up at 6 a.m., one person wakes up at 10 a.m. One person likes to eat like veggies for breakfast, the other person likes pancakes. One person wants to take crazy wild vacations, one person wants to lie on the beach and do nothing. Whether you like it or not, you go back to that stage where it's like you don't know what works. Level 2, stage 1, like stage 2, level 1. You're stuck in that place where it's like, I don't know. And it goes haywire for a few months when you first get together. After the lovey-dovey stuff, like it goes haywire. Then eventually you figure out what works and what works for both of you. You sit down, you hash it out, figure out your rules, figure out your beliefs, figure out your goals, figure out your plan of how things are supposed to go. You match it up, you align it up, and as long as you do it right, it works. You mess it up one day or go out of order, everything goes to hell, falls apart. Effortful as a couple. Eventually, you do it long enough, you get good at it, you get the rhythm, effortless, you own it as a couple. Now you're both owning life as a team together. That's the perfect moment to bring a little one into this planet because now you've mastered life as a couple and all you want to do is focus on what you can give to that little one. Sad to say, this is not the order that most things happen. No, normally it's like, hell, I'm going to go out and figure my own life, single person, out in the bars. Fuck, I'm not happy about not knowing what to do with my life. She looks cute. Hey, want to go on a date? Bam, level 3. Fuck, what happened?
Yeah.
And not like it's a bad thing. That is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And if it's meant to happen, I'm sure God's looking over it. But in a perfect world, there's levels you want to work through. And if you accidentally skip to level 3 or 5 and you have 12 kids already, awesome, no big deal. All you have to do is say, hey, where do I have to backtrack to catch myself up as fast as possible?
Yeah.
And in relationships, here's the one thing I've noticed. I've met people who have just about everything people say they want. Money, stuff, status, power, fame, companies, everything. If they don't have someone to share it with, there's not much to life. Really, truly.
Yeah.
Like you meet people and you hang out with them in their quiet time when they're not out in front of the world. And if they don't have someone that they deeply, deeply love to share it with, it's not worth much. On the flip side, you can meet someone who doesn't have a whole lot, but they have the right person to share their life with, everything is amazing, no matter how good or how bad it gets.
Yeah.
And so relationships, I would say, is one of the secret sauces to life. If you really, really, really want to experience the most out of life, master yourself as a person and find a person to share who you are with as fast as possible, and it'll be one of the greatest gifts you ever do.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. Because I recently was reading one book by Sue Johnson, who's a relationship expert, and they're showing like the studies will actually show that if someone has, you would think that if someone was single, they're going to go out there and they're going to do all this excellent stuff and they're going to achieve all this stuff. But they've actually found that someone who's got a secure, good relationship, they're more likely to actually go out there and do that and achieve all that stuff because they have that stability or that love right there. And it's something that's no sales guys really talk about or gurus or anything like that. But that's one element I definitely wanted to get out because I think it's really important. I want to share that with other people out there.
For the guys listening, women.
Yeah, my audience is like 80% guys, by the way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
For the guys, it's important for women too. They would enjoy it, but guys especially. There's a program called The Amazing Development of Men by Allison Armstrong. And it talks about the natural stages men go through in their developmental levels of life.
Yeah.
And when you understand that as a guy and understand where you are, what's next, and how to get there, it's a really, really powerful foundational piece psychologically that just goes, oh, okay, that makes total sense. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly how to approach life and exactly what I'm ready for.
Yeah.
And for women, if you listen to that, it also tells you when a guy's actually ready for a real relationship. So all the women, one of the biggest complaints you get from women is, he told me he was ready. He was like, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And all of a sudden one day he's like, I'm not ready. And he disappeared. And she's like, ugh, what happened? And, you know, normally that's a stage called night when she talks about it. And it's a guy who's trying to prove to himself what he's capable of, but he's not really ready to build. He's not a prince yet, where a prince is focused on building his foundation and building his life on something that matters. A knight is still trying to prove himself. So for ladies listening, you want to find yourself a prince, not a knight. Unless you're looking for fun. If you're looking for fun, go for a knight. It'll be a wild adventure. Never forget it.
Right on, right on. Well, Jairek, I want to thank you a million for coming on here. The content you gave was, as always, world class. Absolutely excellent. Where can people find more of your stuff if they want to work with you, your books, all that good stuff?
Sure. Easiest place is my website, JarekRobbins.com. If you don't know how to spell it, Google JarekRobbins.com. It'll find me.
Right
or I can spell it for you. It's Jairek and then Robbins.com.
Yeah, it's right. It's right on his microphone holder.
And just visit my website. We have a free gift. If someone wants to design their ideal day or have an audio to listen every morning on how to create their ideal day, it's right on the website. There's also an ebook there and free stuff. I definitely say jump on our email list. Every week we try to push out brand new content on the blog and push it out on an email. And then every day right now, I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I'm on day 31 or 2 right now. So every day I've been pushing out a podcast, just the question of the day to think about. So jump on there too.
Right on. Hey, I've been doing a video every day, and I'm on like 184 or something like that. So nice. It's killer. I encourage you to keep doing it, man. It's really good.
It's fun. It's a good practice.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's really awesome. Yeah, guys, I'm on his email list. Like I've said, I've gone through all his podcasts, like literally all his videos and everything like that. He's got awesome materials, and highly suggest getting on his stuff. And that's why I want to have him on here. So. Again, thanks a million for coming on, man.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, man.
You got it. You got it. So that's today's howtokickassinsales.com interview with Jairek Robbins. You can catch him at JarekRobbins.com for more information. Sign up for stuff. Get his stuff. It's killer. And I will see you guys on the next video. Peace and love. And that's it.